Now, before we get started, I would really love if you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can get the latest content from the YouTube channel, The Last Rewind. And don't be shy about leaving your comments at the bottom of the page because you are the sole reason why this channel will be successful. Thank you. Hello and welcome to The Last Rewind. Before we get into today's topic, which is about a mad Jerry Jones, owner of the Dallas Cowboys, please make sure you hit the like and subscribe button so you can get more episodes of The Last Rewind. So, I don't know if y'all heard this interview of Jerry Jones, which was on the 105.3 The Fan. Jerry Jones comes up here every now and then, gives an interview about the state of the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not sure why, because let's see. Let me do the math in my head. 28 years, Dallas has been mediocre, subpar. They have not come close to the glory days that they had with Jimmy Johnson and Tom Landry. Nowhere near close. The thing is, that's okay. And wait, before you jump down my throat, it's okay when teams have down years. You're not going to win the Super Bowl every year. You're not going to win the championship every year. I just want you to be competitive. That's it. And you may have a year you only win 2 games. Shit, I think let's see, was it 89 or 90? Dallas won maybe like 2 or 3 games that season when they had Aikman, when they had Emmett, Irvin. It was a rebuild. It's okay. As long as you're building up to something, I'm okay with having down years. What are we building up to? Just being mid? That's all it seems like we're going to. I looked up a stat the other day with Dallas. And then I compared it to the Cincinnati Bengals. As we know, the Cincinnati Bengals have been the red-headed stepchild of the NFL since almost their inception. They have a Super Bowl. I think they got one from the 80s, I believe. If I'm wrong, y'all correct me in the comments. But since 1996, the hallowed Dallas Cowboy, the nickname America's Team, which I'll get to that in a minute, the nickname America's Team, who have 5 Super Bowls altogether. Only teams I think have more than them is the Pittsburgh Steelers and, of course, the Patriots. They have won, since 1996, 5 playoff games. 5 playoff games. They've gone 5-13 in the last, which is going to be probably 28 years this year. 5. And the same conversation with the Bengals, which I expect, because they don't have a winning tradition. And they're not expected to have a winning tradition. Of course, their fans want to see them win. They have 5 also. 5 wins. Dallas hasn't been back to an NFC championship since, I think, 96. Hard for you to have that moniker, America's Team, and you're doing America a great disdain of being mediocre. America doesn't want mediocre. We want the best of the best. As you probably see with this year's election, we don't want mediocre. We don't want mid presidential candidates or Senate candidates. We want the best of the best. We want to put America on top. And if this is the best we can produce, we need to get this team out of here, out of the NFL. But again, I'm okay with having down years. but you got to build towards something. You can have 10 straight bad years just as off of bad decisions. But it almost seems like Jerry Jones doesn't want the team to get better. Look at the offseason he had. He received nothing but Ezekiel Elliott, a guy who's running like he has a house on his back. Then I heard Ezekiel complain the other day, talking about how come I'm not getting more touches. Why would you get more touches? What have you done in the last 4 years? Nothing. They got rid of you and brought you back for what? Because you have a great relationship with Jerry Jones? People say, oh, well, he signed Dak. What has Dak done? Dak has been mediocre. Oh, yeah, of course. He had a MVP-like season last year against a bunch of tomato cans. When the playoffs happened, what did he do? He wet the bed. Wet the entire bed, wet the entire room, wet the entire field. Left a stench out of AT&T Stadium when the game was over. Versus an underdog who wasn't even supposed to even be in the playoffs. Had a late surge and then got into the playoffs. But this is all Dak does. And Dak looks like he's having a season like he was a couple of years ago, where he was throwing more interceptions than touchdowns. And all I keep hearing is, oh, we didn't get the right players. Sure, you didn't get the right players, but there are a lot of teams or a lot of quarterbacks that work with less and get more done. Can't always be perfect for you to win the game. But anyway, let me get back to it. Before I go to what Jerry Jones says, America's team, the definition of that seems to be different than what most people think it's supposed to be. Maybe it is supposed to be something else, but it seems to be now it's America's team. Dallas is still America's team, but for different reasons. Dallas is America's team because we care when they win and we care when they lose. People who are not Dallas fans, they watch the game just to see Dallas lose. People who love Dallas watch the game to see if Dallas loses or wins. Cincinnati Bengals, when they're good, people watch them. When they're bad, nobody watches Cincinnati to see if they lose. Dallas is supposed to be box office. Why? I don't know. Maybe that's the one genius of Jerry Jones, is he gets people tuned in to watch Dallas lose or win when no other team gets that kind of ratings. Nobody cares if the Giants are bad when they're bad. They only care about when they're good. People care about Dallas whether they're good or bad. But I'm going to play some audio from this interview with Jerry Jones and the people at the radio station 105.3 The Fan. And I want to comment on how irate he seemed to be when people were asking him regular questions that you would ask a general manager and an owner of a team. He's both. Most teams don't have that. I want you to hear how irate and idiotic he sounds to get mad at the two people who were interviewing him. Let me pull that up right quick. I don't know if you hear the helicopter in the background. It'll go away in a minute. Let's see. Here we go.
Jerry, you know, there's been a lot of talk about execution. I think you've mentioned it here already. If the execution has become a problem to the extent that you get losses like the ones against New Orleans and Detroit, why are those players still the right ones for your team?
Well, first of all, where are you going to go to get any players? Seriously, where are you going to go to get any players for the next week against San Francisco? Now,
Devontae Adams was available. He was out there for the taking. Do you want to win a championship or do you just want to be mediocre? I'm sorry, I don't know why I asked that question. I already know the answer.
Number one, I've seen these players. I've seen every one of them execute like you want the plays to be executed and do their job within the role. That didn't happen the other day, and we paid the consequences for us. But I've seen the players do it. I know we have outstanding personnel, very outstanding personnel. We just made our quarterback the highest paid player in the NFL. We've just topped the receiver list charts. So we made our bed relative to how we're going to approach with our key people with the team.
But why? CeeDee Lamb, I can understand. He seems like a burgeoning wide receiver. He could have a prosperous career. Could. But Dak, you can pay the man, but why did you have to make him the highest paid quarterback in the league? What has he done to earn that? Besides keep us at bay, besides keep us hopes we're going to go to the playoffs at the most. That's our ceiling. It's the playoffs. 12 games. I give him that. We're winning 12 games. I almost want to say we're winning 12 games despite Dak. We've won 3 games so far despite Dak. When we had Jason Garrett, and it was a mixture between Jason Garrett had Tony Romo at one point, then he had Dak. It was the 8-8 roads. Now that was definitely average, but it's not much better. It's a bigger tease to win 12 games and don't do anything when it comes to the big dance. I still don't understand. I've asked several people like, well, there's no other quarterbacks. There was, or just draft. But the problem is Jerry just had a birthday and he's on the wrong side of 80 or the wrong side of past 50. And he doesn't want to wait anymore. He doesn't want to rebuild. He's like, this is the best we're going to get because life expectancy is not that long. I don't have time to rebuild. So we're just going to go with being mid. But back to the interview.
We were shorthanded out there on defense, but everybody gets shorthanded. That's really not an excuse in the NFL. Your depth should step up there, and you should be able, if you can, to compensate to some degree. You can't compensate for the gap, so to speak, that we had between the way our offense played and the way we were supposed to play. Now, I want to give Detroit a lot of credit for that. They came after us and got after us, and they put guys on top of every offensive lineman you had, and they came at it and put the kind of pressure that gave Dak a lot of problems and gave our running game a lot of problems. We've got to be able to handle that.
Jerry, I think the counter back when you said where are you going to get the players, you can't get them this week is, and you're aware of all the off-season topics.
Yeah, but what is your counter? What is your damn counter?
My counter
I
is...
really want to know where you would go get it. Now, don't tell me about should gotten a guy in the off-season.
Why not?
Exactly. Thank you for pushing back. Why not? You had Saquon Barkley you could have got. You knew the running game was horrible. You knew it was horrible last year. Tiffany Pollard was coming, not Tiffany Pollard. Pollard, I'm sorry, getting his first name. Tiffany Pollard, I think is I Love New York, if I got that correct. So forgive me for calling him Tiffany Pollard. Pollard, the running back from last year, he came back from an injury, and I think it was taking him time to round himself back into NFL running back shape. So I think this year, I don't know what his stats are this year. I don't know how he's doing. I think he would have been a better service running back than what we've had so far, but you didn't want to pay him. You gave all the money to Dak, all the great money you could give to CeeDee Lamb, and you haven't paid Micah Parsons yet. So, But you had Saquon Barkley and King Derrick Henry doing great with the Baltimore Ravens. Oh, that's right. We played them this year, and he ran roughshod all over our defense. I think when Micah Parsons was still playing before he got injured. We could have really needed that because we don't need Dak throwing 30 times for 400 yards because consistently in his career, when he throws for 400 yards, you're usually asking for trouble. You're usually going to ask for a couple interceptions and a fumble somewhere. He didn't even get 200 yards versus the Detroit Lions, and they threw what? I think 2 interceptions and a fumble, I believe. Threw a couple interceptions, I think, the game before that. We've sucked at home. We've sucked since Green Bay called us out on our own field in the playoffs. And this year, we've lost 3 games, all blowouts, saving the Baltimore Ravens because they took their foot off the gas. On the road, I guess we're okay. We beat the Steelers, but it gave us false hope that we could possibly challenge the Detroit Lions. Back to it.
This isn't a damn word argument just because I'm not arguing with you. I'm dealing with how we line up against San Francisco, not what I did wrong last week or last month or 2 months ago
Or the last
2
2
years
decades.
ago. If I really gave you guys a list of all the things I've done wrong over the last few years,
A lot.
you couldn't be on this program for the next 5 years steady and go over it. But every now and then you do some right things, and at the end of the day you add it up, and the rights give you a better spot than the wrongs. But if you think for any minute...
How? You've won 5 playoff games in almost 30 years. There's no more rights than wrongs. Yes, you built a beautiful stadium, and you got the highest ratings probably of any team that's not in championship form. And Dallas Cowboys are the wealthiest football team, maybe the wealthiest sports team among the major 4 sports in America. And I guess if I was a billionaire, I wouldn't worry too much about anything else. If I'm counting my billions, why would I worry about anything else? But as a fan, if you support this, and you get what you pay for. Mid. I gotta find my
for
spot
the
here.
next 5 years steady and go over it. But every now and then you do some right things, and at the end of the day you add it up, and the rights give you a better spot than the wrongs. But if you think for any minute right now, there'll be one Super Bowl champion. What do the others do wrong? There's one Super Bowl champion. Now, we want to be that champion. And I'm sure not throwing the towel in today because of what happened out there Sunday. But I'm not going to sit here and waste a lot of energy, a lot of time. Let's talk about what I should have done back in 1907 or 2017. Shit, Ben. Come on. I've got more time than that, and I actually don't even have time on this great show for looking back at decisions.
What do you mean? Looking back on decisions is how you get better in the future. You know, you look back on what you did wrong, and then you correct it the next day, if you can, or the next year, if you can, or 26 years later, because you can. Not even if, because you can. You've missed out on so many great free agents, so many great coaches, because you wanted to save a little money for yourself and not make the team productive. Again, it's okay to have down years, but to stay on a baseline where you don't get better at any time for almost 3 decades is ridiculous. But more so because in the position you're in, when you're a super team, when you're one of the most wealthiest teams, you have more opportunities than, say, somebody like Cincinnati or a low market team somewhere. But you don't use it to your advantage. Well, you don't use it to your team's advantage. You use it towards you, Jerry Jones, the billionaire's advantage. And that's why Dallas sucks.
Okay. So, Jerry, 1970, a little different from this past off season in building the team we're talking about today, which there was a lot of criticism that you guys didn't add, didn't spend, and don't add, and don't spend, and are not aggressive enough with some of the problems that are still haunting the Cowboys today that we see play out on the field. That's the point of talking about the offseason.
Oh, I remember those criticisms very well. Okay, so what?
Are they playing out to be accurate?
What's your point?
My point is, it seems like
Listen, let me tell you what I'll do. About it. I will let us sit down and look at the decisions we've made over the last several years. Okay? I'll look at it. Now, if you think I'm interested on a damn phone call with you over a radio and sitting here and throwing all the good out with the dishwater, you have got to be smoking something over there this morning. I'm not. And I really don't, and I don't even want our listeners to listen to me to talk about. This is not your job. Your job isn't to let me go over all the reasons that I did something and I'm sorry that I did it. That's not your job.
Their job is to push back on why the team is not doing as good as they should do. Their job is also to talk about the good that comes with the team. There is no good to talk about this year. There's none. There's no positivity that I can point out and say, moving forward, I can see us building on that. There's none. The defense sucks. The offense sucks. The running back sucks. Dak is regressing to 2 years ago Dak. Like I say, he was throwing all those interceptions and a couple touchdowns here and there. Sucks in the red zone. We suck. Plain and simple. And you need to come to the front of the pulpit and tell everyone why you suck, why we are so terrible, because you're the one who makes all the decisions. Now, if you were just the owner, you could say, well, general manager, he makes the decisions. I just write the checks. But you're so selfish because you want all the attention on you. This is the reason why we lost out on probably a couple more Super Bowls, because you couldn't stand that Jimmy Johnson was getting all this attention for why they possibly won the Super Bowl. You wanted a lot of the attention why they won the Super Bowl. It's the same thing, and I just thought about this. This is almost maybe the same ego that Jerry Cross had with the Bulls. He couldn't stand that he wasn't getting his lion's share of the attention for helping build the Bulls up to where they were to win 6 championships in the 90s. But at least he waited until damn near the end of the dynasty. Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, Leon Lett, Aikman, you had Deion Sanders one time, Moose Johnston, Alvin, man, I can go on down the list and naming Hall of Famers on that team. You broke it up, or at least you took away the coach way before the dynasty was getting ready to end. All because of your ego.
Well, my job is to ask
y'all
why.
get a job, or I'll get somebody else to ask these questions, man.
Jerry, we're trying to figure out why the team is.
I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. You're not going to figure out what the team is doing right or wrong. If you are, or any 5 or 10 like you, you need to come to this meeting I'm going to today. There are 32 teams here. You're geniuses.
Jerry,
okay. Y'all really think you're going to sit here with a microphone and tell me all of the things that I've done wrong and without going over the rights?
Well,
now, listen, we both know we're talking to a lot of great fans and a lot of great listeners. And I am very sorry for what happened out there Sunday. I'm sick about what happened Sunday. Now, I'm not talking to these yahoos on the end of this phone. I'm talking to you, the fans that are listening this morning. And we can spend a lot of time going over zigging and zagging. One of the stupidest things I've ever done that anybody has ever analyzed is buy the Cowboys.
Okay, I'm going to end it there because he's talking nonsense. He apologized for what happened Sunday, last Sunday with the Troy Lions, which happens to be his birthday. Bad way to celebrate your birthday. Apology not accepted. The best apology is to change your behavior. And if he's going to continue behaving the same way he does every year, getting the same result every year, keep your apology. Why would you want to do anything any different when you're still making the money? So somewhat, I'm going to blame the Dallas fans. You keep showing up to these games, you keep buying this merchandise when this guy clearly shows he does not care about the fans. You kind of get what you deserve. Jerry Jones doesn't want to be questioned because, ironically, he doesn't want the blame when they lose, but he wants all the adulation when they win. You can't have it both ways. Sorry. Just like, there's one thing I will say about Dak. Dak, when they lose, he'll take the blame on his shoulders. And when he wins, he'll take it also too. But they'll also give credit to his teammates. I'll give Dak that credit. Same thing with McCarthy. If that culture went all the way up to the GM/owner, Dallas would be in a better place. They might actually challenge for the NFC Championship. And that's cool. NFC Championship, at least you're knocking on the door. All you need is one good game. I know some people are like, "Well, shoot, look at where the Detroit Lions are." The Detroit Lions haven't been to the big dance ever. So why are you complaining? That's cool, and I understand that. But Detroit ain't Dallas. Detroit doesn't have the same type of pizzazz that Dallas has, that says bring in free agents because it's a lot of glitz and glamour. And I can get you different players just based off the endorsements of being a Dallas Cowboy player. Yeah, that was one of the arguments when people say, why are you paying Dak so much money? Because he's going to make it back on endorsements. So with CeeDee Lamb and Michael Parsons and whoever else. And if I'm not mistaken, they don't have a state tax. I could be wrong on that one. But there's ways to make money back besides giving them, a max contract, especially if they don't deserve it. Now, if he had won a couple championships, if he was won to a Super Bowl or he went to a couple, maybe lost, but at least went, Jalen Hurts, then I get it. You want to pay him the money, lock him up because he looks like he could be a future Hall of Famer, if you will. But for what he's done so far, Dak don't deserve that check. And it doesn't look like it's going to get any better. Dak he's not getting any younger. You still got to pay Micah Parsons. What direction is Dallas going in the next 5 years? If we had a 5-year plan, I'm asking the audience, do you think Dallas will ever get to the NFC Championship the way we're being constructed right now? Or are we going to stay mid? This has been Big Red in the Last Rewind. And make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. And I will see you on the next episode of the Last Rewind. Peace.